there's got to continue to be talent in the space from a game dev standpoint, from the asset and art design and so on. How has the market for talent in the gaming space and Web3 gaming specifically shifted in the last couple of years? I would imagine it's pretty different now from when you started building out your team.
So the first, I think about this now, right? Like, and obviously I don't know every single game, but there were maybe in our pitch deck, I struggled. I think I had to put CryptoKitties in there, which is not really a game, right?
Yeah.
It was like Axie, CryptoKitties, and I think there was one other one that was in there, right? Now, Axie didn't have a single game developer of AAA quality, right? Mm-hmm. You can tell by the game that they built.
Yeah.
Amazing technology, extremely talented when it came to being able to realize the power of NFTs. Mm-hmm. I can't thank them enough, because if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would have gone to Grant, who I actually think is probably the first mainstream person that's capable of AAA, whether they be an artist or a developer. Mm-hmm. He was probably the first one to come into GameFi. And it took me 2 weeks to convince that guy. He'd never built a game before. It was always something that we'd spoken about growing up. 2 weeks. I can literally show you text conversations, because that's where it started. We didn't have a Discord. He didn't have a phone. He used to use a fucking iPad, which is the weirdo that he is. So if it wasn't going over to his house, which I ended up doing, it was texting him and being like, on Messenger we used to use, right? So I could go back, and I probably will now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, this would be good.
I'll show you some, I'll put it in the Discord. I'll have to maybe delete some stuff because we talk pretty crazily, but it was ridiculously hard. What did I have to show him? I had Axie. I said, hey,
Axie and CryptoKitties to say, this is what I mean.
He's like, dude, I'm not fucking with this at all. Like, no, not a chance. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't work 15 years of my life with some of the largest brands in the world to become one of the best CGI modelers in the world, to go and do some bullshit crypto scam with you. Not happening. And I was like, it's not going to be like that, blah, blah, blah. And then it snowballed, right? So that first, you're right. The 2 years ago, it was extremely hard. Roger, another one, super skeptical. He's like, dude, like we caught him in an outsource time. He'd done a whole bunch of stuff for some crazy studios out there and some really big games. But he was also like, I mean, I'll do it because it's just, you're promising me money.
I'll get paid for it. Yeah.
I'm not joining full time.
I'm not signing my name on this, right?
Yeah. Aaron didn't. I think Aaron at the start was actually like, I reckon I can convince him that we just build a mainstream game. If the guy can go out and raise money, I'll just take that money and just build a mainstream game, because that's what he had wanted to do for like 10 years. So I think he was genuinely thinking as well, this is just bullshit. And so, yeah, it was extremely hard to get that first core group of 20 devs and artists to show them. And luckily, I'm really, really good at convincing people of things, right? It's one of my skills that I utilized at the start to say, like, no, I'm telling you, I can see this. I know where this is going. Don't think about what's in front of you here and these graphics that look like they're 20 years old and this shitty gameplay that looks like it could be built in 2 weeks or whatever. Think about what it would be with your guys' ability, your talents. And that's when Grant started thinking, okay, well, I can go AAA. Right? Like, I wanted to do that all my life. I'll go AAA. I'm the only one who can prove that. Look at my fucking reel. You can talk shit all you want, but I've got the reel. And I was like, all right, I've got it. I've got him. And then once I had him, I went to Aaron and I was like, let's do it. We got Aaron on board. Then the first 20, Grant was able to go out to a bunch of friends of his. Same thing, getting Dimitri on. I was like, dude, he was like, yep, I'm in. Now, the guy was working for Cream Studios. It's one of the biggest studios in Australia. They make world-class ads for huge brands, Mercedes, BMW, Kellogg's, like just crazy brands. The guy was at the top of that studio, and I'm here saying, hey, jump over to crypto. And he's like, you're on crack. Like, I'm not doing that. Right. And so it was hard at the start. I know I've rambled on a lot about this, but it means a lot to me, you know, because it was one of the biggest hurdles. And it's the reason that you see so many games go out there and go, oh, no, I'm not putting my team on the website. That's not because you don't want people to go and poach your guys. That's because you don't have that team that you're talking about. Because I know firsthand how hard it was to be able to recruit these people. But once you get that core 20, 30 people and you start tapping into their networks and you say, now you've worked with, 300, 400 other AAA artists and devs, go out to them and tell them that this is real now. And we had enough substance. Nowadays, fast forward 2 years, it's still tough. Devs are still tough to get, but they see our team and we show them like, okay, well, these guys are a ridiculously high caliber that have built games across the board, have animated movies and done sound on movies that are all across Hollywood. Why do you think they're here? Do you think they're part of some elaborate scam? And so our recruiters are very, very good at saying like, this is real and this is the future of gaming. And yeah, now it's easy. But I still think for other studios out there that weren't as ferocious as us at that beginning point to just get to that tipping point of where you can really prove to devs that what you're building is real, I think it would still be a struggle for them.
That makes sense. So one of the challenges you're going to have, I've no doubt, is as more of the content comes out, we get into the overworld, the game goes live next year, you're going to have the opposite challenge where everyone that's trying to get into the space, that they need the next lead dev or lead game designer, they're going to be looking for the folks in your studio because they've done it, right? They've proved that it can work. How does that, how do you approach that as a leader, recognizing that, part of the risk of being one of the first entrants to the space puts a target on your back because people are going to want your people because they're the ones that have shown it can work.
100%. And, that's where Danny, myself, Grant, we've run businesses before. We know how to retain people. Aaron as well, very, very good at just being real, right? Like saying, we are here for the long term. We have a vision that a lot of times, and I spoke to Roger about this. Roger's our lead concept artist. He said, concept artists are usually the first ones to go because what happens is we run out of concepts. And I was like, dude, are you crazy? Running out of concepts means me running out of ideas like Illuvitas and the land game that we came up with, and Aaron running out of new games to build. Like, I was like, we're going to need more concept artists, not less. And it's those conversations where in a traditional studio, they say, okay, this game's done now. We're going to publish this. We're going to start building another game, maybe in a couple of years that we'll call you up. And they're very, very used to just being kicked to the curb and saying, we don't need you anymore. And I was like, do you know how many partnerships I'm not saying this to you, I'm saying this to Roger still. I'm like, okay, first of all, forget the games, forget all that other bullshit. Do you know how many partnerships that Lauren is talking to, potential partners that Lauren is talking to now? you know how you built that thing called Illuvitas and you design these collections now? He's now utilizing that as a mechanism to go to these big in real life brands and say, hey, do you want your own Illuvitas collection? And what does that mean? We need to build concepts for, and like the concept team, they're also the ones that do the NFT art. So those partnerships. And so when we're talking to these brands and you're thinking, okay, the apparel that they use, or like the tattoos that they have, if they're a famous person, and I'm not going to go into who we're talking to and what brands we're talking to, but who's going to do that if we get rid of the concept artists? And Roger's like, yeah, right. I'm like, dude, like it's been 2 years and you still question whether, like, do you think I'm crazy, or do you not realize that I'm thinking 10 years ahead? And I know for a fact that not only are there new games that are going to be coming out, Aaron is building those in his head now. There's 50 other things that we're going to do to generate revenue across the board that require concepts. If we go out to these guys, a new battle board, for example, like skins for the auto battler, if we want to go out to, and we've literally just, like, one of the most exciting partnerships that I think we're going to be able to close, and we're deep in talks with them, is building out a concept for a battle board that just, it'll blow people's minds. It'll be like, holy God, how did they get such an established brand that has been around for that long to now have that as a skin? If you want to play your auto battles, boom, you're doing it on this new battle board. And I'm like, okay, let me just go ask the animators, because we're going to need them for the rest of the time. Obviously not your concept artist. And he's like, what? No, we have to do that. And I'm like, oh, really? That's interesting. You know, so there we give, going back to that original question, we show the team mega loyalty, right? They also see that the founders work stupid hours, like to the point where it's like, how can they sustain that? And sometimes we can't, right? Like sometimes we literally burn out. I've said, back, I don't know, 12 months ago, I had to just go, I'm going 12 days to Mexico. I'm out. Don't talk to me. Like, I'm literally done. And, apart from that, we work incessant hours that are probably not healthy. And it shows the conviction that we have. And regularly, we get told by core contributors that this is the best place we've ever worked. We're super transparent with them. We've said from day one, and however you want to work, whenever you want to work, and wherever you want to work, as long as you get the job done, do whatever you want. We have some freaks who can literally do things in like an hour, and then it's like, okay, well, you just did 5 things in an hour that would normally take 3 people 2 days. Go and have a holiday. Great. We don't care, right? And so that sort of realism and transparency builds such a high resilience in our staff and a retention rate that we've had 2 people poached, and they were both from marketing, right? So I'm not worried about these big studios coming in. Actually, one was from game design as well, which kind of pissed me off. But at the same time, the offer that they gave him was just outrageous. And I was like, you know what? For your own self, just go and do that. But do I have my do I have my thoughts on whether it's going to be a good long-term move? Yes, but I totally get it. And again, that's the type of guys we are. So building it up to a 200-person studio in 18 months and having 2-3 people be poached, I'm not worried at all. Plus, there's the incentive of the tokens that we gave them early on. So they're all locked in for the long term. And it's really not something that I worry about. I've got way bigger stuff to worry about than that.